everybody, Danny Rubino, joined once again with Jay Bennett. No other guests today. Oh, are we going to have George today or anyone else?
We are. George is there.
Oh, I don't hear him.
George is quietly in the background. Hopefully he will speak now.
Well, whatever. Hopefully he'll be joining us in a bit. Anyways, we're back here for our bi-weekly podcast, and we'll be going over all the major stories, of course, this week and over the last few days. And there has been quite a few big stories. Actually, some of the biggest stories of the year possibly happened this week. Well, besides that one, was Phone 8 stuff. It's been a very busy week. We're not getting any rest. We have done a lot of work this week. We're doing a ton more coming up, and we have a lot more in store for you guys. I guess let's just jump into it. Well, Jay, first of all, how you doing? Any big news in your life? Married, children, divorced?
No, not divorced, not married, not any of those. Not single either, but that's whatever you want to call it. No, I'm pretty good, thanks. How are yourself? Are you feeling better? Are you alive this week, or should we be calling?
Yeah. Technically, I am a bit better. You'll hear me coughing a lot less this time. I still have a little residual, but it's, I would say, 90% gone. But yeah, nearly 8 weeks out, and I'm finally almost healthy again. So
I'm quite happy to hear that, I have to say.
Yeah, it feels nice. It feels nice to be able to breathe and not cough every 5 minutes. So definitely good stuff. Let's just jump into it. We've had a busy week here with two major launches, but unfairly to HTC, they get kind of ignored. So we'll just talk about the 900 for a few moments here. The Lumia 900 on AT&T finally launched this week, and we're able to all pick it up in the stores on Monday, except for the white one, which comes out April 22nd. And it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride, right? So the phone came out Sunday, but of course all the AT&T corporate stores were closed. Some third-party retailers were open, so people did manage to pick it up, but most of us couldn't. A lot of you who pre-ordered took our advice, got your devices on Friday afternoon, which made an exciting weekend. And the device has been selling seemingly pretty well. Amazon, it's one of the top-selling devices. The AT&T stores have been selling quite a few. This isn't an iPhone launch, but it's been doing pretty solid. But then there's this screw-up, right? So, Jay, what is your feel so far this 900 launch?
Okay, so we'll come to the screw up in a second, because obviously that's part of the story. I'm actually quite curious to hear how you felt the New York City event went, and if you've now become a massive Nicki Minaj fan.
Right. So Nicki Minaj, I had no idea really who she was, but I kind of did.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, right. Well, I have a friend and a colleague in my lab that I work, and she's young. She's a kid. And she plays Nicki Minaj all the time. I had no idea that's who it was. But yeah, this was my first sort of real exposure to her. It's not my style of music, but I'll be honest.
I just want to point out, I'm enjoying the fact that you said exposure to her like it was some kind of virus.
Yeah, right. I'm not like a huge pop music fan, but I'll admit that song Starships is pretty damn catchy. And I have a sore spot, or a soft spot rather, for really cheesy techno dance music stuff. So I'm actually okay with this stuff. Yeah, I mean, I listened to mostly punk music from 20 years ago, but no, it was fine. Now, the event itself was interesting. I always have this bias. This is why I don't go I don't go to sporting events, because I don't really watch sports. But even if I were, I mean, it just looks so much better on TV, right? You always watch these HD football games. It's amazing now, right? And this was the same deal. If you watch that video we posted, the official Nokia video for this event, it's just breathtaking. I mean, Nokia does a great job with editing and filming. It was just really amazing. If you were actually there, it was not nearly as exciting, mostly because you couldn't see the stage. It was really hard to see the stage. It was really tiny. And yeah, we had the billboard surrounding us. The crowd was pretty huge, mostly because Friday night on Times Square is pretty packed as it is. A lot of tourists. So a lot of people showed up, but it was difficult to actually see her. And I think there's some good criticism about what this event was. It was sort of like, it was cross promotion. She had a new album coming out, and the Nokia was there, and they didn't really talk about the phone too much, of course. And it was a short event; it only lasted about a half an hour. So,
which, by the way, is how long the London one lasted. Half an hour.
Yeah. So it's sort of weird that they did this. I like the light show. I thought if you watched, the video and you see the LCDs, I couldn't even see that other side, the corner. I only saw half of it. But, I mean, it was an impressive light show. And, okay, it got attention. It got into the papers. A lot of entertainment press that normally, We Don't Read as far as smartphones go, picked it up. And so I think it was a good event, but it could have probably been, a little bit better.
Yeah, I'd say it's a difficult one because I mean this is a massive sort of free show that they've put on, and it didn't quite live up, I don't think, to the spectacle that was the London event. And I have to say, also picking up on your point about being there live versus being seeing it on TV. In the case of that London event, seeing the whole Millbank Tower lit up and made into one massive light show, it was definitely better being there live. It was phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. So I think that was. I think perhaps you're right. This felt more like just a gig that had been sponsored by the Nokia Lumia 900 with a remix of Starships thrown in for fun, rather than a massive launch event. But it's more than we can say about other Windows phones that have been launched. So I think it's good. It's good publicity. It's good press, and I'm fairly sure a lot of people had a lot of fun there.
Yeah, George, Nicki Minaj thoughts?
I wish it would have come down south.
You guys would have tolerated that?
Well, it'd be nice. I mean, everything's up north or out west. Very few events hit south.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
I mean, I think if they would have had the event outside of New York City, it might have been more of a focalized event. Mm-hmm. But I mean, when you have anything in New York City, it can get overshadowed real quickly because of everything else going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's partly true. The news, all the news channels did cover it. There wasn't luckily too much big news going on that night in New York. So,
well, it was Easter, wasn't it?
Yeah, I keep wanting to sort of move out of New York City. I'm more of a Bostonite. I like New England a little bit better. But every time I think about moving, all these kind of events keep happening in New York City. I'm pretty lucky that I don't live too far from it. But no, it was an interesting launch. It was an interesting kickoff. I think they could have been done a little bit better, but I like the video. Now, we have to understand, of course, this isn't D-Day. If we're going to be using World War II references here, this is Rolling Thunder, which was a Vietnam reference. But so we have to understand that Nokia isn't here, going for full blast day one. This is about a sustained campaign of advertising and getting the message out there. So yeah. I'm sure we'll see other events going on, but that was kind of interesting. Now, let's actually talk about the 900.
Yeah, so let's talk about the phones. We've got obviously the 900 and the Titan 2 to talk about in terms of reviews, and I thought it'd be quite fun for those who don't recognise George's voice. This is George Ponder, who of course is our irreplaceable reviews editor, who had the pleasure of reviewing the Titan 2, and obviously Daniel, you put out the review for the Lumia 900. Both superb reviews. If you haven't already read them, I really recommend it. And what I was hoping we could do here is have an almost a little versus match with Daniel talking up the 900, and then we're going to have a bit of chance for George to talk us through the Titan 2, even though I know you've both got both of these phones. So Daniel, do you want to start us off with the 900? What were your overall thoughts?
900 is a gorgeous device, and I really like it. It's not perfect. It's not the device... It's not a game changer in a lot of ways, which is sort of what Windows Phone needs. And this is the weird thing, and I talked about this a little bit briefly in the review about Nokia, which is their phones aren't, at least currently, their Windows phones spec-wise are not anything amazing. The clear black stuff is kind of cool, but it's not, like the Retina display kind of thing.
Sure.
So their technology is not game-changing, groundbreaking. There's nothing in this device that you really can't find in other Windows phones. Some people pointed out that in a lot of ways, the Lumia 900 is basically a Focus S, which is kind of true. Both 4.3 inches, both 1.4 gigahertz CPUs, front-facing camera, rear-facing 8-megapixel camera. There's a lot of similarities between these devices. Now, the 900 is priced well, but what makes the Nokia things interesting, and I had this problem. I have the 710 on T-Mobile. Now, I'm a pretty big, power user, all this kind of nonsense. But I love using the 710 because there's something about Nokia devices that just look awesome and they feel nice. 900 is no different. You look at it, you pick it up, and it just looks great. It's a phone you actually want to be seen using in public, that when people see it, they want to grab it. It's look-wise, it's just really different from everything else that's out there. And that's what really Nokia has going for it. Now, I have the black one for review, which I need to send back, actually. But that's fine because I actually want either the cyan, but I'm most likely buying the white one on the 22nd. And it's that difference, that cyan and that white availability, that really gives these devices an edge. As far as the actual hardware itself, the screen, love it. It's actually, like I said in the review, it's one of the best screens I've seen. I know some people said, well, what about the One X on for Android? Which I'm not arguing. I'm sure that really is a nice screen. I'm limiting it right now to Windows Phone. But even if you compared it to other platforms, it's a nice screen out there, forgetting the resolution issue. It's, as far as audio quality, definitely one of the best. I love the sound of it as far as using as a phone.
Just out of interest, talking about sound, because it's something was bugging me. I wanted to ask you. The one design flaw I find with my Lumia 800 is the position of the speaker. Some people love the fact that it's on the bottom, so it doesn't get muted when you put it down. But then every time I go to hold it in my hands to watch a video or to play a game, I mute the speaker.
You block with your finger. Sure. There's no. This happens on no matter what device. On the Titan 2 and the Titan 1, likewise, the speaker is sort of near the camera on the back. Mm-hmm. And now the Titan 2 is kind of cool because of the way the camera works, and it sort of protrudes a bit. When you put it down on its back, it does leave a space between the phone and the surface you place it on. So sound does escape. It does muffle a little bit, but sound will escape and won't be completely blocked. But it's the same problem, actually. And the Titan 2, it's a tiny little speaker hole. You can literally cover it with your pinky, and it will block 95% of the sound. It's actually really weird. If you go to a store, just play some music on the Titan 2 and just put your finger over the little tiny hole. It'll almost go completely silent. It's actually both interesting and a little frustrating because the speaker in the Titan 2 is really good, and the speaker in the 900 is also really good, especially compared to what we had 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing if you just cover it with your finger, how it just can completely silent it. I'm okay with the 900 speaker placement. It's true if you're playing a video game like that, it could block, but I find that on the Titan 2 and other phones as well. It really depends how you hold these devices. And if you're always kind of moving your fingers around, you're eventually going to block that hole. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
But overall, the 900, it's a great phone. Once they fix this data issue, I talk about this in the article. It's like my Wi-Fi keeps going out. The data comes to a crawl. When I'm switching between 4G and LTE, I'll often just lose all signal. I mean, the signal will be there, but I lose all data connection.
Yeah.
So, that's a big problem. But overall, it's a great phone. The camera is the biggest disappointment. Mm-hmm. People are taking notice. You see it all in the reviews. When I went to an AT&T store. I was talking to one of the managers there, and one of the first things she says is that the camera is not as good as my Android or iPhone. And then I explained to her why that is and the technology, why the Titan 2 is better. But I mean,
got the picture of you standing there just talking the AT&T rep through.
Yeah,
which phone.
Yeah, but this is the problem the phone's going to have is people like her make legitimate complaints. Like that's supposed to go up against the iPhone and the Android devices, and she notices that the camera is not as good. Now I know they're supposed to be promoting these devices and selling them, but they're not drones, right? These people. I respect a lot of these AT&T reps. They have their own opinions on things, and if a customer goes, which camera is the best or this, that, she's going to say, well, the camera on 900 isn't that good. It's good in certain situations, but it has some problems. That's a knock. I really wish they had a better camera on it. So, but the front-facing camera is one of the best I've seen. So,
okay, we're going to come to software on the Nokia in a second. But first of all, George, do you want to talk us through your Titan 2 review and your thoughts on Titan 2?
I think the challenge is both these phones are great. I mean, the Titan 2, it's an improvement off the original, which is what you try to set out to do when you build a sequel. Feels good in the hand. The 4.7-inch screen, nice and bright. I can't say it's better or worse than the Lumia 900 because they're different technologies. It's kind of like comparing green apples to red apples. They both taste good, but they're different. Both these screens look good, but they're different. I mean, you can't really knock the Titan 2 for not having as much contrast because it's just a different technology.
And the Titan 2 is better in the sunlight, isn't it, the screen technology?
Yes, definitely. I was leaving work this morning. I could barely read the 900, but I turn on the Titan 2. I can see it clear as day. Better. Performance-wise, no complaints. The reception, people complained about the original Titan having poor reception.
Which
no problems.
Yeah, I think that was the antenna at the bottom when we talked about that, the death grip kind of thing. Well, that was on the HD7 too, but yeah, there was some problems with the back plate, I think, on the original Titan making a connection.
Yeah. And as I said on the site, I can hold the Lumia 900 and the Titan 2 together side by side, have the same reception, get on a call, have the same type reception. So HTC has addressed a lot of the issues with the original Titan, fixed them on the Titan 2. And the 16 megapixel camera, I mean, it's fantastic. And it's not so much a megapixel race, it's the software behind it. I mean, they put a lot of work in the camera software. You've got something like 18 scenes, 10 special effects. You've got the intelligent auto that'll take all the variables and decide what scene to use for that particular picture. And it does a pretty good job of it. You've got the panorama, you got the burst. And when you put it up next to the 900, the 900 almost looks like a stock camera app with very little features. Now, I like the 900. I think it's an outstanding camera. Windows Phone, but it's a start.
Yeah.
It's a start for Nokia.
I think as well, George, one of the things, I mean, I watched your video comparison as well, and I couldn't believe the difference in video quality between the 900 and the Titan 2. If I think anybody who's looking at this phone as being a second camera or even their main camera and video recording device should definitely go and look at the comparison that we post up on the site today, particularly at the video, because it's a stark difference. The 900's a little bit sort of blurred, kind of hazy. I remember my 800 originally had a problem whereby it couldn't focus properly in video mode, but they have since fixed that with the firmware. Whereas the Titan 2's video quality was just outstanding, and it was a really noticeable difference.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of these phones, but in my mind, the Titan 2 has a little bit of an advantage because of the camera. You don't have that connectivity issues. Granted, Nokia is doing an impressive job by fixing it and addressing it, and plus giving you that credit for your troubles. But something tells me they should have caught this as it was leaving the assembly line.
Yeah,
there's something wrong.
Yeah.
The camera, I'm convinced the camera issues are software related. I mean, on paper, the camera should perform great. Even in low light, even without the BSI sensor. I mean, it's an f2.2 lens. It should open up wide enough to let enough light in, but the images are dark.
Yeah,
so
I think it defaults to our higher ISO because if you look at my sample photos of the 900 in the review, some of them I manipulated the ISO by dropping it down manually to 1 or 200 and just holding the camera and taking the photo. So I think what it does is it ramps up the ISO really high so that you're not blurring subjects that they're moving. But in turn, anytime you increase the ISO, you get a lot of noise. It's just a side effect of higher ISO. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely. Now we also got to keep in mind, of course, so the Nokia is going for $99. It's $100 difference. So you can make an argument that, well, it's $100 less, you get $100 less worth of camera. So that's a valid thing. It's not a bad camera in the sense that I'm still buying a 900 myself. Like I said, I'm going to go on the 22nd. I'll be in ATT, plopping down $450, probably for a white one. 99% sure I'm getting the white one. So I'll be getting the phone, but you know, it's sort of something you just wish they could have improved upon. I'll be posting tonight some low light samples from the Titan 2, including some the full resolutions. So if you guys want to see them, that right, I walked around the city the last 2 nights and just snapping some photos, and you know, you're able to really get some great images from the Titan 2. But the 900, you know, has other things going for it. One, it looks really great, and in a sense, it's a nicer phone that way.
Oh, it looks so much better, and that's the thing. The Titan 2, in comparison, looks like just a really dull device.
You know what? Someone described it to me the other day as it's uninspired. The Titan 2, as far as looks, and it's totally true.
It's just
the
a
Titan
screen.
2, it looks like pretty much every other HTC device. Now that's not. I don't want to knock it too hard. It's a huge improvement over the original Titan. I mean, it feels better. I love it's more rounded. The rubberized back feels really great in the hands. It's smooth. The screen is great. I mean, it's not only how it looks, but when you move your finger on the screen, it feels more like the 800s. It's really silky smooth, and it feels right. And so they actually nailed a lot of stuff on it, but it's still overall the look. just looks a little tired. And so it's just not as exciting as the 900. Plus, with the 900, you're going to get way more accessories. You go to the AT&T store now, they already have a bunch of cases available for it, including third-party. And we're getting more information from other third-party vendors that more stuff's coming out. But that's because the 900 is AT&T flagship phone, also going international. Titan 2, not so much. So if accessories and the ecosystem are important to you, 900 is a good choice. So both are great phones. I'm really happy to have both of them, but there's difference.
And another thing to watch is where they go from here. Nokia, I mean, they're jumping on the fix with the connectivity issues. They've got the accessories out there. And last time I checked, HTC hadn't put the Titan 2 on their website yet. So I think where these two phones go from here, the 900's going to win out because Nokia is going to build on it. They're going to improve on it. I'd love to see a little bit larger screen. I like the 4.7-inch screen. I like the large tiles. But I've got a feeling HTC's
winding down.
They're going to 6 months from now, you'll have the Titan 3.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Yeah, and I would still probably buy it because I really like the Titan and Titan 2. Now let's talk about a brief second here about LTE. Only some of us have LTE. I believe it's 31 cities, but it expanded by another 12. St. Louis just got it. LTE is extremely impressive. Now, we're a little biased here early on only because the iPhone is on LTE. So the network is kind of a vast playground right now with barely anyone on it. But the speeds are ridiculous. Now, I'll post these maybe later. I did some Titan 2 tests the other night. Now, I was testing in the middle of the night, so network traffic is, of course, even less. But I was hitting 30 megabits per second, which is just, it's astonishing. And I was downloading a 17 megabyte file, and it came down within seconds. It's truly a fast network.
Than my broadband connection. It's just
it was faster than my my Wi-Fi that I had at work too. I was twice as fast actually, and my upload speeds were going between like 3 and 6 megabits per second, sometimes peaking at 8. I mean, it's truly, and that's indoors. That was like indoors. I mean, no windows in the room I was in. So I mean, it is just a really impressive speeds. It's night and day. I can't talk about it's just so good to have those speeds. And what it's really good for is when you're taking a 16 megapixel photo and you want to upload it to Twitter, it's a blink of an eye. It just flies up and you don't even notice it. And, it's really impressive stuff. So LTE is something to consider. Now, the big question everybody's probably wondering, we'll talk about briefly also, Windows Phone 8. Is that going to come to these devices? And it's a looming question. I wish I had an answer, but we don't. AT&T, when I spoke to them, and I'm taking them at their word because they seemed really honest about this, they didn't seem to know because they didn't really know what all of Microsoft's plans were at that moment. I have a gut feeling that they probably will do some sort of update for the Lumia 900 and probably the Titan 2 to bring it up to Windows Phone 8. Now, there's talk that, I've also heard Windows Phone 8 just won't run on these first-gen devices, but they may do some sort of weird hybrid thing where you get a bunch of new features in Windows Phone 8. But, of course, you're not going to get the HD screen, NFC support, some of the more advanced, hardware-dependent features that may be there. So I really wish I could answer you that question, but it is a whole, and I know a lot of our readers, and the poll, I think it was 40% of you, said you're waiting for Windows Phone 8. I think that's a legitimate position to take, especially if you're happy or satisfied with your phone right now. You're not, after testing all these devices, it's not a huge game-changing difference between them, especially if you have a Mango phone. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the question I'm going to put to both of you. Of course, ignoring for now Windows Phone 8, and considering that these two are effectively our new top-end devices, I'm going to leave the Samsung Galaxy S2 out for now. Galaxy S2, sorry, now the Samsung Focus S out for now. Which would you choose, gun to your head, Lumia 900 or the Titan 2? And you can only have one. Dan, I'm going to come to you first. And it's you personally, for the record.
I'm a little biased. I have to go probably with the Titan 2, only because I'm a photography hobbyist. So
you really
camera
are.
For me is, so cameras for me are really important, and the Titan 2's camera is just where it is for me. The ideal world, I would take the Titan 2's camera and put it on the 900, and for me that would be the perfect device probably. I would really be happy with that. The 900 is the phone I want. The Titan 2 is the one I'll probably end up using, majority of the time.
Okay. George?
Same here. Titan 2. I like the larger screen and the camera. I'm with Dan. I'm a photographer. That was one of my hangups with camera phones. You didn't have the quality there, so I always carried around at least a point-and-shoot camera to take pictures with. Now I don't. I can carry the Titan 2 and get just as good a quality. Nothing wrong with the 900. I like it as well. I'll use it on and off. But the Titan 2, that's going to be for me.
And here's the thing, I haven't handled either of the phones. I've only got my Lumia 800, and yet I know that I would personally go for the Lumia 900, and I'll tell you why. It's for the software that comes with it, because the thing we can't forget, if you care most about the camera, there's absolutely no doubt about it, the Titan 2 is the better phone for you. But if you're interested in Nokia Drive, which of course is a very important thing, it's free sat-nav navigation. If you're interested in the Nokia Maps solution, which is fantastic, especially in the UK for searching for certain features, for looking up public transport routes, and of course the Nokia Transport apps, there'll be Nokia TV coming very, very soon, hopefully to some of the English-speaking regions. The Nokia are really driving it out of the park when it comes to software. So that's one thing just to consider. Are you looking for a good quality camera in your phone, or are you looking for perhaps the better overall software experience? And I think that's the only way we can differentiate these two phones.
And the software, it's a good point. I thought about it driving home this morning. Nokia did a really good job building a collection of software that someone new to Windows Phone, they can buy the 900 and they hit the ground running. I mean, you've got ESPN, you've got CNN, you've got the games that are coming, Nokia Drive. You've got a nice solid foundation of software in the Nokia collection. HTC is not too shabby, but it seems more novelty than anything else with like the flashlight, notes. Now locations,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I think Nokia, I don't know, designed it to that new user. Where Dan and I mean, we've got Garmin Street Pilot, we've got Navigon. So Nokia Drive's not a big deal for us because we're, I want to say seasoned, but someone's right off the street getting pulled into Windows Phone. I mean, they're going to hit the ground running with a 900 where they're going to have to build a little on the Titan 2.
Yeah, but also let's just make another quick point about those apps as well. I don't know if Navigon's necessarily the case, but with Nokia Drive's now completely offline navigation and maps, if you found yourself going abroad, which is probably more of an issue over here in Europe, you would avoid a lot of roaming charges if you were hoping to use it as your GPS technology.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are things to consider. If you're someone who barely uses the camera, it's not important. Obviously, I think the 900 is a better deal, both financially and in terms of software and ecosystem.
Yes.
So there's
we almost forgot about the price.
Yeah. No, I mean, and these are big differences. I was going to actually write, I have an editorial I'm like working on, but it's basically the title is going to be Titan 2. The Titan 2 is for the geeks, but the 900 is for the masses. And I really think that's sort of the difference here. Yeah. The Titan 2 does make a better phone for power users and veteran users, but the 900 is the better phone for Windows, for Microsoft, Nokia, and AT&T to sell to the masses. So,
I mean, I'd almost call it a high-end entry phone, a high-end entry-level phone.
Yeah.
So as I was kind of expecting, we slightly overran on our discussion there, but I was prepared for this, so that's fine. I'm going to very quickly talk about the 900 data issues because we have already covered it, and I'm just going to quickly sum up the story. There is an issue at the moment which Nokia have identified. Effectively, it seems to be that there's what they're calling a memory management issue is causing the phone to stop connecting correctly to the LTE network. And from what Dan's saying, it sounds like the Wi-Fi network as well. It's a error in the firmware of the phone. You can go and get it exchanged at an AT&T store, or you can wait for the software fix, which is due to be around next Monday. And in the meantime, Nokia are going to give you $100 on your AT&T phone bill. So we really can't say fairer than that. At the end of the day, in some cases, you're going to be given money for a phone. So that's a pretty good win-win situation, as Daniel described it. Let's just very quickly talk about how some of the other sites have perceived the 900, because there's a lot riding on this phone. And I think, Daniel, you summed it up perfectly when you said it's not a game changer, which is kind of what Windows Phone needs. But unfortunately, it seems to be that there was so much hype built up on this phone that it's the fact that it hasn't wowed everybody to the point of completely ditching their other phones, has caused a lot of other sites, I'm not going to particularly name any names, to come down very hard on Windows Phone as an operating system. Now, obviously, we're an enthusiast site, but we have to perhaps talk about these shortcomings from a new user's perspective.
Yeah. I mean, well, we'll talk about, what you're namely referring to, of course, is Josh Topolsky's review on The Verge. I'm okay with throwing out there. I'm okay. Okay. I thought Josh caught a little too much flack for this, to be honest.
Agreed.
For one,
agreed.
reviews are reviews. They are a lot of personal opinions thrown in with some facts, and you have to understand that. That's why people need to read reviews and read around and know what their audience is. Now, our review is different from, like, say, The Verge or the Wall Street Journals, because most of our users, or a lot of our users, have accepted Windows Phone for what it is, and with its limitations, ports, and all. We still all think it's a really good operating system. I don't have a lot of complaints about, things, because I use it as a daily device. So we started off from that perspective, and we acknowledge that there's certain things it just can't do right now. So what we review is the actual phone itself compared to other Windows phones. So that's our perspective. Josh did it a little differently. He stepped back and said, well, let's look at the phone, but also the operating system. Now, you can make a good argument that should have been a separate review or editorial. That's kind of fair. But at the same time, it is tied to the phone itself. And those are his opinions. I thought people got a little too worked up over it. I hate when people accuse him of taking money from Apple and all this. That's just not how this industry works. It's a cheap shot.
And it gets really old really quickly as well. It's the ultimate in fanboyism of just accusing somebody of corruption, and people need to stop it.
Yeah. So, I disagree with some of what he said in the review, but that is his opinion, and he has obviously his right to it. And some of it wasn't that out of, some of it was pretty valid. But I think it's a little different. Like with Nokia, you can't criticize them too much for the screen resolution, 800 by 480. You could say, okay, it's not as good compared to the Galaxy S2, but we all know as Windows Phone users, this was all Nokia could do, right? So Nokia's hands were tied a lot by what Windows Phone 7 was capable of in terms of hardware. It's pretty restricted at this point. So they couldn't really do much. So it's hard for me to fault them and to criticize them for that. But if you're going to criticize it as an overall device compared to others, it's an interesting point. It's true that some sites were a little bit more lukewarm to it, but a lot of sites were pretty enthusiastic. I would say it was a solid B around seems to be the grade, because everybody knocked the camera a little bit and some issues. The connectivity problem. Now, the connectivity thing bugs me, not because it's there, but because it got there. I think a lot of us reviewers who had the phone within the first 48 hours noticed something was a little up with losing data connection. And that, for me, is just wondering, how does that get by? It's up there with the disappearing keyboard. How do you put this out there without anyone just going, hey, wait, why'd that happen? Or that's a little odd. Because I have about, 13 Windows phones now. I've never had a problem with my Wi-Fi. Never had an issue with it. Only on the 900 have I had problems with data coming to a crawl. And so I'm wondering this testing, how these things get by in the first place. And it was it's a black eye, because they were putting out the smartphone beta test is over. Yeah. And now this is sort of like a little slap in the face, like, well, you just bought a phone that, looks like it was kind of beta in some aspects.
Beta tested. Yeah. It's unfortunately, that's where you have different departments. One's marketing and one is actually making the device. And it's the problem with large companies. But yeah, they would be wise potentially to think about pulling that advertising campaign for a little while,
and they kind of have a little bit.
Yeah,
it's because if they had given me the phone a couple months ago, I'm just saying, and let me test it for a week or two, and I could fill out a little survey and form, I would have.
Can we say now that you had it during the last podcast, and I was dying to ask you about it?
Yes. But I was really wanting to, I would have told them some of these issues, and they could have. I don't know. They got to get better at testing these devices a little bit. Now, I'll give Nokia all the credit in the world, and our audience has too, that they're handling this very, very well. They're pushing out that update extremely fast. They're giving those $100 credits. So it restores a lot of faith in the company that, they're going to make this right. So that is a good thing. I'm happy about that, but it still kind of bothered me a bit. As far as the rest of the reviews, it's mixed. It's going to be tough. This isn't going to be the device. I think that's going to help a lot with Windows Phone, but it won't explode us onto the scene. I'm still really thinking now that Windows Phone 8 devices will be the big game changers. So
yeah,
but this is
actually, I think the big game changers will come as and when Microsoft gets a few more developers on board with regards to some of the big apps. because as much as it's nice to have as I said last podcast, as much as it's nice to have these exclusives, it's really important for us to get the social apps that are being played across other platforms onto the Windows Phone platform, so that people don't feel that they're losing anything when they switch down to a different phone, because it's one of the things that I can see people becoming upset about. And personally, it's something that, when I recommend a Windows Phone to somebody, I always have to have a little caveat of it doesn't have this app, that app, and the other app, and it's quite important that we close that gap quickly, especially with now the Lumia 900 potentially going to a lot of hands. Sticking with the theme of a mass market phone and the masses adopting it, let's just quickly talk about the Lumia 610. Some very exciting news for me today, which of course is the 610 is going to be receiving near-field communication support, or NFC if you want to use the acronym. Nokia has done some really good stuff when it comes to near-field communication. They've shown off an awful lot on the old Symbian devices and the Migo devices, things like pairing or tapping your phone against a speaker to pair it, and a lot of really cool ideas of near-field communication. So we knew this was coming. But Daniel and George, I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of blown away by how quickly this has come. I was expecting this to be a Windows Phone 8 innovation.
No, it's interesting. Come back to the site maybe Thursday or Friday. I'll have more on this. I have a Windows Phone that has NFC on it. So, and it's and it's actually, it's not a Nokia phone, but it's and it's running 8112. So I think it's 8112, 8107. It's 8107. So it's not even Tango. So it's not necessarily something that needs to have advanced operating system on there. It's something they could just sort of build right in along with some of the APIs. I think Microsoft made it available. It's up to the OEM. So it is interesting that the 610 has it in. And now of course, everybody's talk about, does the 800, 900 have the chipset there but not turned on? When I spoke to Nokia about the 900, they were being pretty forthcoming about stuff. Telling me a lot of things. They said right off the bat, no, there's no chipset. When it was torn down recently, we have the article on our site. I forgot who did it, but they took out all the components. There didn't seem to be an NFC chip there. So I'm not really hopeful that, at least the American 900 will have it. I haven't seen a tear down the 800, so possibly. And there's been some debate that some of the early 800s had it, but they don't all. There's a good question: will the European 900 have it? So It's interesting. NFC is still in its infancy. I know we all want it, but there's still in the United States.
It's cool. Let's be honest. It's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. But in the United States, I have not seen any place that has NFC. I think McDonald's has it, but I don't go to McDonald's.
McDonald's and Dairy Queen.
Okay, so and if you're a big user of those places, then you want NFC.
I'm sorry. How does it work at Dairy Queen? Please, someone talk me through the NFC experience at Dairy Queen.
Drive through window.
Yeah, the drive through window. Yeah, you just swipe it and pay. So it's going to be amazing. The Nokia Lumia headset has NFC for pairing. So this stuff is kind of neat. You just tap it to the back and it pairs with the device. It's going to be amazing technology. But I know that everybody wants it. But don't be too crushed if your phone doesn't have it right now. In the United States, they talk about how the NFC infrastructure for building up around these companies and everything, it'll be around 2013 where it really starts to take off. There's still debate about standards. There's still security issues. Google is basically beta testing this everywhere, right? With Google Wallet, there have been problems with it and securing the cards. And, there's an issue where when you could lock the device, someone could find it, but unlock it, still be able to make NFC charges to, So there were these little security loopholes. So everybody's a little cautious still because, if you lose your phone, you got to worry about your data. But now also you got to worry the fact that that's technically like a credit card, right? That people could just go and start buying things with it. So we're getting there, but but a 610, it's neat. I think it's a great option. I want a 610 because I think it was a cool little phone. But it's cool that you guys are going to get it in UK. I think you guys have a little bit more NFC set up. So
yeah, agreed. And like we say, it's just interesting to see that the 610, the low end device, is the one that's going to have it, and it'll probably prompt me to push out the Tango version of our app pretty soon because it looks like the 610's gearing up for a release very, very soon now. And it's a cool looking phone. We'll have more on that probably in the next podcast. The last item of the big story. For all the people out there on Verizon, you might have missed this because I missed it. It wasn't until I was reviewing our stories to write the script that I saw it. Verizon are actually going to push out an update for the Trophy. I'm a little bit flabbergasted. I don't know what to do about that. This is the disappearing keyboard fix, isn't it, that they're sending out?
Right, and along with the security fixes. So this is, I think they're doing this because AT&T is sort of, putting their devices out there. I think everyone wants Verizon to put out a new phone, but it's probably better than nothing. The trophy is still chugging along there. People who have trophies love the phone. So, they're a very proud small subset. They're sort of like Sprint or Arrive owners who really like their devices. So it's great that, this is coming out. It should be, I don't even know if it started rolling out. I haven't followed up since then, but the support paper is up for it. So, yeah, they'll be getting that fixed. And, it's good on Verizon for pushing that out. So now we're sort of waiting on Sprint. And I'm still hearing rumblings that the Arrive will be getting an update too. So, unfortunately, these updates can't come fast enough. I think it's just too late now. I mean, it's not too late for people to get it. And people will be happy to get it. But it's still too many months after Windows 7 came out and everything, this issue with the keyboard, that it's, they got to fix this update.
But let's say hallelujah, because people on Verizon have been looking for some love for some time, and this is almost a little bit of acknowledgement of, hey, you Windows Phone users do exist. So, hallelujah.
Right,
Frankly, I'd like to see a red Lumia 900 hit them, because I think they'd quite like that.
Right. So
it's just me. Okay, as expected, we're overrunning a little bit, but that's okay. Let's move on to the apps. And I wanted to start out by highlighting some app recommendations that we've been making this week. Daniel got very busy and started writing up a nice, big, massive article, which Daniel, I appreciate the image of, by the way. Just wanted to say. For must-have apps for your Nokia Lumia 900. And that, of course, means that for those of you who are joining us for the first time, or perhaps have just downloaded this podcast on a whim to see what's new in the Windows Phone world, we are going to start putting out a couple of how-tos. You'll see a couple already, just people that might be joining us brand new. And Daniel has spent a lot of time going through some of the top apps. Frankly, I think that the one he put at the bottom should have been a little bit higher up, but I'm a biased individual. Did you want to talk? Just pick out a couple of those apps and just maybe pick the top one or top one or two that people could consider? Or should we leave them to read it?
I mean, it's gonna be a tough thing, obviously, because people all have what preferences, what they consider important, like for Twitter and stuff. But it's I try to make a pretty comprehensive list. It's tough making these lists because there are a lot of apps that I might have forgotten or things I didn't cover. Someone pointed out they do business or travel apps, which is true, or sports, which is also true. So it's kind of hard to think of all these things, but it's a great starting guide. We're going to do more of these because I know a lot of the people on our site already know, these apps, use them, know what's best, but we are expecting a huge influx of new Windows Phone users and they need a place to start. And so nothing's better than reading an article where it just gives you all the top apps that are out there. So definitely go check it out. Today we just published the must-have games, which covers a lot of the Xbox Live games and a few indies as well. So if you're new to the platform, you might want to check that out. That's written by our games reviewer, Paul Acevedo. And so he knows all sorts of things about video games. So you make sure you want to. Games. Yeah, he really does. So make sure you want to follow that and check those out because his recommendations are pretty spot on. Although his tentacles standpoint is controversial, let's say that.
Controversial.
Well, because he doesn't care for that game. He thinks it's too hard, remember?
Yeah, it's still cool.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah. And so, but I think it is a great game, and it's Windows Phone exclusive too. And same with like Milo. But it's a great start. So if you want to go there and you're unfamiliar with some, because there's over 100, I think it's like 105 Xbox Live games now. So if you want to help, sifting through that, definitely check out that article, check out mine. We'll be doing more. And if you guys have ideas of roundup app, articles you want us to do, just shoot us an email. We'll try to get to that.
And George, you're working on another article at the moment, aren't you?
Trying to pull together a bunch of free apps, games, and applications to get you started as well. One game that's missing from the list, I've got to give it a plug because I play it every day, is Trine's Hangman. If you're into word games, Trine's Hangman. There's a free and a paid version. It's outstanding. Graphics are great. The words are challenging. It's just an overall nice game for your Windows Phone. It's a great way to pass 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time.
Wow. Do you know what? I haven't got that installed. I'm going to get that as soon as I get off the podcast. So that's going to be one of mine. let's keep with the games situation. I wonder how many of our users and the readers, listeners, and chatters in the chat room picked up a game in the Easter sale. Is it still going? Because when I checked yesterday, things were still really cheap. This is brilliant. So if you're listening and you haven't already downloaded or paid for Angry Birds, or in my Burn the Rope is my other sort of top pick on that, go there. They're 79 pence or 99 cents, and I'm actually hoping that this isn't a sale and this is a permanent price cut, because Microsoft did say they were going to start aggressively pricing some games, and I'm really hoping this is permanent.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. They may be subsidizing some of the costs, which, with the Lumia 900 launch, they want to do. Getting 99 cents for Angry Birds is a really nice deal, and same with some of those other apps. So it's a good thing to do this. Hopefully, we'll see more of it. It's but definitely go check out that. We have the list on our site. Just type in Easter sale, and it should come up.
What's your favorite on that list out of interest?
Oh, some of those games I wasn't like a huge fan of. Actually, let me bring up the list here because I actually forgot.
Let me go through them. It was Angry Birds, Burn the Rope, D-Blob, Doodle God even, Iron Ball EX, Max and the Magic Marker, and Toy Soldiers Boot Camp. I'll be honest, I've played all but one of them, and I haven't played Toy Soldiers Boot Camp, and I don't imagine I ever will.
Toy Soldiers Boot Camp has awesome graphics, but it sucks as a game. Yeah, no, the graphics are pretty cool on it. It's a teaser game. It should be free almost. It's not a game. It's just like short mini games, and it's just not a lot of fun. You play it once and you're like, eh. Max and the Magic Marker is definitely one of my top. I think that's an outstanding game. It's just the graphics are great. It's fun. It's quirky.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard, but I really like it. It's nice. Iron Ball EX, I had a blast playing. I actually beat that, which I rarely ever do.
Did you play D-Blob? Did you play D-Blob?
I've never played D-Blob.
It's kind of awesome. George, have you played it?
No, I have not.
It's a really simple puzzle game. It's one of the ones that you can dive in, play for a little bit, and then jump right out. And I got it on my Omnia way back when I first had a Windows phone, before I even started developing for the platform. And I did used to love playing that game. Actually, I might re-download it. It's just reminded me that it exists. Have a little play of the trial. It's a really good game. It's not quite as good as Burn the Rope, which I did have to say I've been playing this week and I'm really enjoying. But it's a good game.
There you go. Let's talk about this week's games. Our Pirates. Yeah, Pirates. Sid Meier's game. I downloaded this briefly. Actually, I didn't download it briefly. I downloaded it painstakingly because it does take a long time to download.
Oh my wow! It is such a long install. It took half an hour.
It didn't take me that long, but it was definitely a long install.
And it's now failed and it's downloading again.
There's a lot of people who are fans of this. I heard there may be a sound glitch for some people with it blasting really loud. Initial reviews would be pretty positive with it. It's not my style of game. It's a little too involved, but that's my bias. I know a lot of people want these type of games which are much more involved and that you kind of sit down and play, and you literally play for hours. I want more quick style arcade. So, but for those people, I'm glad it's on the platform though, because a lot of people like doing that. So, interesting. Go check it out. I'm more excited.
And it's been around forever.
Yeah, I like Ice Stunt too.
Have you played it? Have you played it, George?
Yeah, back when on the PC format.
Oh, really?
It's been around for years.
Oh yeah, it's very old. So yeah, it's great to have these kind of classics come by. I like Ice Stunt too. I got to play that a little bit more, but that was more my style. So, Rowi gets a big overhaul.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that? Because this has been a long time coming, and interestingly, it's worth saying that we talked about the Verge review earlier, and of course, Josh actually picked out Rowi as being one of the top apps that he installed. So let's talk about what changed. George, you wrote up this article. What's changed in Rowi, and are you now using it as your Twitter client?
Well, I'll admit I tweet, but not that much. The Rowi app, the big change is the notification that jumped off the page at me. I mean, you've got toast notifications, not only for mentions and new tweets. You've got the image upload services across the board with LockerZ, YFrog, Twitter, and TwitPic. Instant resume. I mean, it was Mangofied, so you got instant resume, fast app switching. You can pin tweets to your start screen so you can follow them easier, and it's it's just a nice overhaul. I mean, it's a facelift. Brings some features, makes it a little bit more fully functional as a Twitter app.
But it's taken them a very long time to get to this stage, because this is Rowi's first Mango release, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, how long have we had Mango for now? Let's not even count the developer preview. It was last year, October, as far as I know, right?
Yeah, October, November, wasn't it?
October, November. Yeah. So this has been a long time coming, and I'm quite surprised, because it is one of the top-rated Twitter apps that it took them this long. But in their defense, they've gone and they've done it well. I've switched to it from Carbon for now. I'm also quite a fan of the whole, you tap a tweet and pops the options to view it, to reply, and you can sort of slide along that menu. I really quite like that, and I may be borrowing that principle for something that I'm looking at doing shortly on our app, because it's a really nice idea to sort of have these tiles that pop up when you want them. It's a really nice overhaul. I'm very, 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 very impressed. And from the sounds of it, but looks at what some of our commenters said and have said in the past about Rowi, it's as they call it, it's long overdue as well. So yeah, that was pretty good to see.
Now, one hang up the developer did. Now, this is short term for the delay. The developer did have some problems with the marketplace trying to get it on board, and then when he was going to have the 99-cent sale, there was a delay in getting the price changed. So there were some marketplace delays. He didn't really get into the detail, but there were some delays on that end as well.
Oh, okay. Well, which is to be expected. And of course, we did find out this week that the marketplace submission process is currently taking approximately a week due to the current rate of submission that they're getting, which is quite a good sign that there's a lot more apps coming in. We just have to hope that it's all quality and not a bunch of quantity. So we've got a tiny little bit of time. I'm just going to look at we have a little reserves list here of articles. I'm going to look at the options here. Let's talk very quickly about the promotions that we've seen this week. And I sort of want to compare, because we've had two different advertising promotions that have started up, or campaigns that have started up, sorry. One, of course, is from Nokia, which is this beta test. The smartphone beta test is over. And the other one is the free time machine advertising campaign. Have you guys been to either to the events where the free time machine was happening? Because obviously that's been over in America, not over here.
No, I did not go to that. I wanted to, but I had to work that night too, and I didn't want to go to work extra early. I was just a little too much. Eventually, once I quit my other job, I'll go to these events more. But I don't think I missed too much anyway. It was basically a machine. You got to, giant Windows Phone, and you got to play with the smaller Lumia 900s, of course, and people were there, and celebrities. And then a lot of times they're just giving out sort of gift certificates as time savers, right? So that you save money on things.
And again, nothing down south. Nashville, people, Nashville. Atlanta, 2 hours away, either direction. Nothing down south.
Right. So, yeah, that's true. They only did it in, what was it? Well, they didn't do Boston. So they did New York City, Chicago, and San Francisco. These are sort of mixed. I don't think they were probably the best spent money for advertising promotion, because they didn't actually pre-announce anything, which is kind of weird. Like, we had to kind of figure it out, going to the sites and stuff like that, almost make it viral. But this isn't a viral campaign, so I thought they could have done a lot better for getting it out there. They could have announced this stuff. I don't know why they didn't put anything up on the Windows Phone blog, or you send out press releases or anything just to get people and media there. So it was kind of weird. I wasn't really too impressed with that. I think the contest is okay. Yeah, you can win some song credits and stuff, but whatever. You can definitely do a little bit better here.
That sounds a bit. Quite a few people in our chat room have won some things. New Shaggy said he won a $50, I'm assuming, dollar gift certificate at the Free Time Machine events. So it sounds like there's quite a bit there. The beta test ads then, or the smartphone beta test is over. Let's stay away from the viral site and just talk about the video ads themselves. Have you watched them? What are your thoughts?
They're okay. I think it's a little controversial a little dated going after the iPhone a bit, especially with the antenna gate and stuff. I mean, and like we said, if you're going to come out and say that, you got to really make sure your phone is bulletproof. And the 900 is proven not to be bulletproof, both in terms of the connectivity issue and the camera not being the best. So, I think that was a risky campaign. I think they could have. I'm actually happy with AT&T's Beautifully Different campaign. I think that's actually a little bit more effective and interesting.
Agreed.
I think the beta test thing. It was kind of witty. It was kind of smart. I love Chris Parnell. I think they should stick with him. He's a lot of fun in those commercials. So they could have turned it up a little bit. But I think, interesting. The AT&T thing, a beautifully different campaign, I think is perfect. I think it really gets this message across that Windows Phone is an alternative, but it's also really just great looking. The beta test, not so great. And the time machine thing reeked of Microsoft advertising, which is like, it's like a bunch of geeks got together and came up with this idea, and it was kind of poorly executed. I don't think it was really good, but it was sort of like,
and then randomly just chose to have Kourtney Kardashian there as well, which was a bit of an odd one.
I'm okay with that. Once again, people...
I'm sure you are, but for some of us who've got brain... No, I'm kidding.
I don't get, once again, I don't really know much about her. I know who she is. I know her sister, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't understand why people were so... And, people got so worked up. It's funny. There are a couple things on our sites that we gauge for comments and feedback and see what people talk about. For instance, everybody hates Instagram, but every time we write on it, people post like crazy on it, right? Talking about it, and it spreads like wildfire. People hate Kourtney Kardashian, apparently, but people are just posting like crazy on it. And so we're in a weird position where it's people don't want to hear about it, but at the same time we write on it, everybody talks about it. So, I can separate my personal feelings on these people, like what's her name, Minaj, whatever, and what I think is good for the platform. And I think it's really good to get this out there with people and celebrities and get the message across. And we need to separate our personal preferences versus what is actually out there in the pop mass culture. Nokia, I think, is really good at putting their finger on the pulse for this. So I'm totally fine with getting these people and these celebrities to do these things.
Real quick, Jay, then I got to duck out. I think Nokia would have been better served if they went with, I want to say it was 24 hours with the Lumia 900, showing the phone in action from daylight to dark. It was a nicely presented video clip. It was a little lengthy. You'd have to chop it up for TV. Yeah. But quit bashing the other platforms. They're there. People like the iPhone. You're not going to change their minds. What you need to do is show them how the Windows Phone works every day, how it meets your daily needs, how it'll work for you. I wasn't a big fan of the beta test ads. I'd rather let Windows Phone rest on its own than try to, like I said, beat down another operating system, especially when your phone is going to have mistakes.
Yeah, I see. This is like the good guy route, right? I think it's, in some ways it's true, but I think Microsoft's been doing that for the last year and a half, and it's just not working. I think they have been talking about the tiles and glance and go and all this kind of stuff. But unfortunately, the problem is it's sort of like in politics where they talk about, let's not negative campaign, let's not, smear the other guy. But it works. It gains media attention. It's what people talk about. And it's the same thing with, I agree in principle with George in saying that, don't let the phone stand on its own. But unfortunately, it's only when you go after iPhone and Android, the Smoked by Windows Phone campaign, the beta test. We can all agree that they're kind of flawed and then maybe some of it's getting old. But if you look at the wider media coverage and the tech press, it worked in getting it out there. Whereas before, people were sort of ignoring Windows Phone. Sure, everybody really liked Mango. That helped a lot. But it was stirring controversy, and was getting publicity. So unfortunately, this stuff works. I think it needs to be a balance between the two. I think that's what really needs. I'm okay with Microsoft going out and Nokia going out picking fights with these companies, these Samsung maybe, or Android. But they also do need to balance it out with, showing the strengths of the phone as well. So you got to do a little bit of both. But it's funny that doing this negative campaigning, this smearing, all this actually does work. And so... Yeah.
And actually, Elmo Pio from our chat room has got a good point. It's at the end of the day, folks get very buried in an ecosystem, he says, and they're going to stay there unless something is resettled in. And people are very invested in their phones, so perhaps this aggressive marketing is the way forward. We are almost out of time, so I'm going to just look at the comments from last time. Except for the first time since the podcast started or restarted, we had no comments last time. Which I've taken a little bit to heart, and I'm going to have my little time to cry later. So please leave us a comment this time round if you're listening and it's still this late, even if it's just to say hi. because it makes me happy when I read them out.
Hey guys, on that note, I'm going to duck out because I got to pick up George. A 10-year-old.
All right, George.
Good luck, George.
Y'all be good.
Take care. So, Chapman, if you've got anything to ask any of us, now is the time. Elmo Pio was asking, why do we think some apps are getting pulled from the marketplace? I asked him to provide us a couple of examples, and he mentioned network setup in Nokia applications had disappeared, and I'm actually seeing it fine, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. It's working fine over here. Can you see the network setup application?
Oh, so sometimes for who is this for? Which company?
Elmo. Nokia it's for the Nokia network.
So those collections in the HTC marketplace, sometimes what they do is when they get updated, they disappear briefly. But a lot of times, if you hit like more apps by Nokia, it'll list there. It'll probably reappear in the marketplace. Now, one thing that hasn't actually reappeared that did disappear permanently was the YouTube app for HTC. That actually does seem to be permanently gone. I'm going to try to find out why that is, but that's something that has disappeared. So sometimes when that happens, it'll appear. Now, we get a lot of emails saying, oh, the Skype beta is not listed in the marketplace. And that's kind of true because I think it's a beta. They're not promoting it like the finalized app, but the link still works. And if you ever just need it, just go to our site, type in Skype beta, and you'll come up with the marketplace link. And if you click it, you'll go. I have to do this all the time because of my phone. But
I use the app for that. I just search for Skype and then download it through our app.
Right. So you can do that too, and so that works well. Yeah, right. So sometimes these little quirks happen, but there's no like mass, pulling of apps out there. So
absolutely right. Right, so we haven't got an awful lot of questions either this week, which means we've either been very informative or people are just not quite at the normal note. But I will just say, Gwen Ziegler says, my 10-year-old wants me to say hello to you all. She is a Windows Phone fan. Good night all, be safe and happy. So I felt like reading that one out. I like a little good news. One more thing. D. Shane Smith is asking, have we any idea about the laggy scrolling on 900? I noticed it on the home screen when using Facebook. D. Shane, we'll put Facebook aside there for a second because the scrolling in that is held back by the Silverlight controls, which I think is something that Microsoft are planning on addressing with Windows Phone 8 to a degree. I'm not aware of any laggy home screen scrolling. I know that the tiles can occasionally start to lag out when things are working in the background. You noticed it as well?
Well, I don't notice it. That's the thing, but others have. So I'm not discounting that it's there. I'm not saying people are liars. Clearly, there are a lot of people saying the 900 has an odd scrolling thing. And there are these subtle differences between the OEMs and how they do stuff. I did a video that actually got a lot of views showing how in the Nokia 710, the rotation is really sped up on it, so that it's way more sensitive. So it rotates to landscape like on a split second. Whereas, and I was racing it against, I think, like the Samsung Focus and a couple other Windows phones like the Focus S, and it always killed it. And the 900 does the same. They have their rotation speeds really quickly. Now, some people are saying the scrolling, there's like a lag to it. I haven't seen it. And like I didn't put it in the review because I never noticed it. So if it's there, I think it's kind of subtle, or it's just one of those things that some people notice and some people don't. I don't consider it to be an issue, but it's something that obviously Nokia could patch up in a firmware update at some point. I noticed more about how like my the capacitive keys don't stay lit on the 900, whereas they do on every other phone out there. So for me that's more of an important distinction because when it's nighttime I need those keys and it's a little hard. But go to the store and play with it. Like I said, the scrolling lag I didn't notice on the 900, so it clearly doesn't bother me. But for some people, they like throw this as a knife saying, oh my God, it's, so people have personal preferences. I don't know. Like I said, I still haven't seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was around when things are running in the background of like, I find it when an app starts installing in the background, if you've got something downloading or if perhaps a couple of background tasks kick off occasionally, I notice a little stutter on my 800, usually turning off the screen and turning it back on again fixes the problem. So very, very quick one. We are out of time. This is our 60 minutes, and this is, of course, the new WPCentral podcast where we try and stick to our time. So I'm going to wrap it up. You can find us all on Twitter at WPCentral. You can find Dan at Malatesta77. George, I want to say thanks for joining us. You can find him at Coppertop004. or 004 if you want to be all spyish. You can find Rich, our British editor, at Rich Edmonds, myself at JAYT Bennett, Paul, our our games editor, at SegaCon, and Raphael, when he's around, at Within Raphael. You can find Rogue Code at Rogue Code. He released an interesting app today. Go and check it out. We've got an article on the site. And of course, big thanks to Dave as well as our forums editor moderator, who's at big_D5. This has been a Mobile Nations podcast. Please go to mobilenations.com for more great shows covering everything mobile, or head over to WP Central forums if you'd like to get involved with our community in discussing more about Windows Phone news, devices and apps, particularly good if you're a new Lumia 900 owner. And of course, thanks to the WP Central store for sponsoring the podcast. Thanks also to the artists that provide us with music. You can go to ccmixter.org to see a great database of Creative Commons music. That is all from me. So I'm going to sign off and get myself some sleep.
We'll be back in 2 weeks, people. Take care. Join our forums, and let's chat Windows Phone. Take care, everybody.